Hello. Everything in Ruby is an object, and today we're going to be talking about the first of those objects, the venerable string. So a string can be defined as any number of letters, numbers, symbols, or characters that live in between two quotation marks. So we can say that this is a string. We can say that this is a string, and this is a string, this is a string, and that this here is also a string because they are contained in between these quotation marks, each and every one of them. So we can see here that we have a string that's a letter, a bunch of numbers, word, sentence, bunch of characters. And I also want to note that this here, a set of two quotation marks, double quotation marks, with nothing in them is also a string. It is the simple string because there's nothing in there, but it is also a string. So let's look into what is and what is not a string. This here is a string. A string has to be contained in two quotation marks that match. So this is a single quotation mark, and that is a quotation mark, so that is indeed a string. This here is a string. It is contained by two matching quotation marks. Is this a string? This is not a string. Although it is a number of characters and symbols and spaces, it does not have any quotation marks on either side and therefore is not a string. Is this a string? Yes, this is a string because it is contained in quotation marks, matching quotation marks, and in this case, a single set of them. So now that we've defined what a string is, let's see what we can do with strings, how we can manipulate them. And the first thing we're going to look at is this idea of substrings here. So now let's take a moment. So feel free to pause this video here and open up the terminal on your computer and type in IRB. What IRB is it stands for Interactive Ruby Interpreter. And what it allows you to do is treat your computer as kind of a scratch pad in order to kind of test out Ruby statements and see what they give you. So feel free to pause this here while you open that up. And once you open it up, let's type this in. Hello world, square bracket, 0. And what does that give you? What does the computer tell you when you type this in? Well, it should give you h, lowercase h. Okay, so without saying what that does, we're not going to go into that right this minute. Do this. Type this into your IRB session. Turing, the string Turing, bracket 0. And what does that give us? Well, this, if you've done it correctly, will give us the letter string T. So by looking at these two, what do we think is going to be, what do we think this square bracket 0 does? Well, what it does is that square bracket 0 will return to us the first letter in each string. And it's 0 because computers think in terms of 0 and 1s, and they start counting from 0. This is maybe a little counterintuitive to you because usually when we count things, we start at 1. But computers start from 0, and it's a very common error to make, and one you'll get over with time. So if we know that Turing bracket 0 is a T, and hello world bracket 0 is an H, what if we did this? What does this give us? Ruby bracket 3. Well, if we count, 0 is R, 1 is U, 2 is B, 3 is Y, this will return us the string Y. And this, what we're doing here, is that we are accessing this by index. Each letter is at an index, and we can get to each letter by putting inside the square brackets the number is. For example, if I wanted to grab the B out of Ruby instead of the Y, I would change this to index 2, because index 0 is the R, index 1 is the U, index 0 is R, index 1 is U, and index 2 is the B. And so this returns us the string B. So now we should be able to access any letter within a string simply by index and counting from 0 where we start. So we've been counting from this way. Let's see how we can do this a different way. Let's take the first string again. And instead of we expect, let's put a -1 on here. What does this return us? The -1 in the brackets on the string hello world. Well, if you've typed this in correctly, you should get the string letter D, because -1 starts us counting from the back. So we get the D. So what do you think that we would have to type in if we wanted to get the string R? Well, if we know that D is -1, well, what happens when we type in -2? Hello world bracket -2 gets us L. So now to get the R, we would have to type in -3 because we're counting from the back. Now, with programming, there are going to be a lot of situations where you have more than one right answer, and this is one of the situations. Yes, we can get the R by doing -3, but we can also get the R by counting from the front forwards. So if H is 0, E is 1, L is 2, the second L is 3, the 0 is 4, the comma is 5, the space is 6, the W is 7, the O is 8, the R should be 9. As long as I've counted right. I'm not very great at counting. So we should be able to get that R again by typing in hello world 9. Both hello world 9 and hello world -3 should both give us that R. Awesome. We now know how to access letters in a string by index, either from counting from the front or from the rear. But what if we wanted to get more than one letter at a time? We can do that. We'd use what's called a range. And a range simply is just two numbers with two dots in between. The first is where we want to start, and the second is where we want to end. So let's take this. Let's take hello world. If we wanted to get hello world, we have to do the square bracket. Where do we want to start? If we want the hello, we want to start the first letter, which is index 0. We have the two dots. And then hello, the O is where we want to stop. and the O is the 5th letter, so that's index 4. And if you type in hello world, brackets 0.4 into your IRB session, you should get the hello. That's awesome. We can also get things in the middle. It doesn't have to start at the beginning. Let's say we wanted the LO. Well, we would have the same thing here. Instead of 04, we would type in, well, E is the first letter. The second letter, but it is index 1. So we start the 1, ... And O is going to be where we want to stop. And that is going to be the 5th letter, which is index 4. And this will get us LO. We can use the negative numbers that we've just learned about. What if I wanted to have LO world? Well, we still want to start the 1, but we want to stop at the last one. Well, we can do this a couple ways. D is index 11, so we can do 1, 11. That would get us LO world. But, as we just learned, we can also do the negative 1. And that will work as well. LO world. And that is essentially how substrings work. How we can indeed use ranges and numbers to simply just get us portions of the string. So the next thing we're going to talk about are methods, string methods. And the thing to kind of note about with string methods is that a method is kind of an action. And so let's kind of use this real world example of a dog. Dog does many things. One possible thing it can do is that a dog can bark. So if the dog has a bark method and we want the dog to bark, we put a dot and then bark. This is called dot notation, and the way we speak about this is that we are running the bark method on this dog object. And we want to do the same with strings. We want to run a method on a string. And we can say that when the dog barks, it's going to return us woof. So when we run a method on a string, we want it to return us something. And I'll give you an example for this. The great thing about Ruby methods is that they often do what they sound like they're going to do. So if we take this string that we've been using, hello world, and what we're going to do is that we're going to run the upcase method on it. What does that mean? What do we think is going to happen? Upcase, what does that sound like it's going to happen? The upcase method is going to simply give us this string all in big letters, upcase letters. Cool. So other methods. There are countless numbers of countless methods for this. And let's say we have this string of hello all in caps. What if we run the downcase method? What is that going to give us? Well, if upcase makes the little letters big, downcase makes the big letters little. And we're not just using methods to manipulate this text. We can do other things. We take that same string, hello, and what if we run the length method on it? What does that give us? Well, length, that sounds like it's going to tell us how long the string is. And for hello, it's going to give us 5.